I shouldn't remember the exact way her voice dipped on the word early, but I do. It was a Tuesday, the kind that smells of damp sidewalks and tired fluorescent lights. I'd shown up at her office again before anyone else. Maybe it was habit, maybe it was something I didn't want to name yet. Her name is Evelyn. She isn't my boss directly, she runs the firm my neighbor works at, and sometimes I get small jobs there, fixing the things no one else notices until they break. I'm 23, supposed to be figuring out life. She's in her 40s, supposed to already have it figured out. That's the difference, at least on paper. But the moment she walked past me that morning, coat draped over her arm, her hair damp from the rain, she glanced at me and said, almost teasing, "You're always early." And I answered without thinking, "I don't like keeping you waiting." It was out of my mouth before I could catch it. Not professional. Not casual. Something else, something leaning too far over an invisible line. She stopped mid-step. The office was still quiet, phones dead, the smell of burnt coffee lingering from yesterday. She looked at me like she was deciding if she should laugh it off, scold me, or just let the silence do its work. That silence stretched long enough for me to notice the small crease at the corner of her mouth, the way her hand tightened on her folder. Long enough for me to feel like I'd given too much away. Finally, she said softly, "I don't wait for anyone." Then she walked past, her heels clicking sharp against the tiles. I should have gone back to replacing the busted light fixture, but my hands felt clumsy, wires slipping from my grip. All I could hear was that line, "I don't wait for anyone." I thought about it all morning. Why she said it like that. Why I felt like it wasn't a dismissal, but a challenge. Evelyn was the kind of woman who carried the air of decisions already made. No hesitation, no fumbling. She spoke like she'd practiced, but you could tell she hadn't. Everything about her presence reminded me of the gap between us: age, experience, certainty. And yet, when she came by again to drop off files at her desk, she didn't look at me the way bosses usually look at people fixing things. She didn't look past me. She looked at me, too long, too direct. My chest tightened, and I realized I was holding my breath. "Are you almost finished?" she asked, her tone flat, but her fingers drumming lightly against the folder in her hands gave her away. "Yeah," I said, voice lower than I meant. "Almost." Her eyes flicked to my hands on the wires, then back to my face. "Good," she murmured but didn't move. She stood there, watching me, until the silence thickened again. I told myself I was imagining it, that the spark I felt was just nerves, or the intimacy of a quiet office before the day really started. But then she did something small, something that lodged itself inside me. As she turned to leave, her hand brushed against the edge of the desk near me, deliberately slow, like she was tracing the wood. Her eyes flicked back, half a second, no smile, no words. Just that look. And in that half-second I knew. This wasn't just me. I should have walked out when the fixture was fixed. That's the rule: finish the job, don't linger. But when Evelyn lingered, I stayed. There's a reason this feels dangerous. She isn't just anyone. She's my neighbor's boss, and in a way, that makes her untouchable. One word from her could cut off the little jobs I've been picking up. And beyond that, she isn't free. She wears no ring, but I've heard the muted arguments through her office door, the clipped calls late at night when I passed her place in the building. She left someone, or someone left her. I don't know the story, but it clings to her like smoke after a fire. That's what makes her sharp edges sharper. She's not just older, she's guarded. While I packed up my tools, she hovered by her desk, flipping through papers without looking at them. I could see it in her body language, the tension in her shoulders, the way she pressed her thumb against the edge of the folder until it bent. She wasn't really reading. She was stalling. And I hated how much that pulled at me. "You do this kind of work often?" she asked suddenly, voice too casual. "Depends who needs me," I said, coiling the last wire. She nodded, eyes still on the folder. A pause stretched. Then softer. "Must get tiring, always being the one who fixes things." That stopped me. I looked at her properly, really looked. The kind of look you're not supposed to hold. And I caught it then, the crack in her tone, the tiredness underneath. Not the polished, in-control version of her everyone else saw, but the part that let the weight slip for a second. You get used to it, I said, but my voice didn't sound steady. Her lips pressed into something almost like a smile, except her eyes didn't follow. And then she finally met my gaze. Direct. Searching. For a moment I thought I saw her waiting for me to say something reckless. My throat tightened, words pressing up against my teeth that I didn't dare let out. Instead, I noticed the small things, because that was safer. The way her hair curled damp against her collar from the rain, the faint smudge of ink on her left hand, the tremor in her breath she was trying to hide. I told myself I shouldn't want to notice these things. But I did. I slid my bag over my shoulder, pretending that was the end of it. She leaned back against her desk, arms folded, like she was anchoring herself there. Leaving already? She asked. No command in her voice, but not neutral either. I thought I was done. Her eyes narrowed, as if testing me. And then, before I could step toward the door, she shifted, closing the distance. Not close enough to break a rule, but close enough that I felt the heat of her presence. Her hand brushed my arm, light, fleeting, like it wasn't supposed to happen at all. Stay a little longer, she said quietly. I told myself I should laugh it off. Make a joke, step away, leave her standing there with her quiet invitation hanging in the air. But I didn't move. Her hand lingered just long enough on my arm to leave a trail of heat even after she pulled it back. She turned slightly, bracing herself against the desk again, as if nothing had happened. But I knew. I felt it. I don't usually stay, I muttered, my voice low, almost defensive. Neither do I, she said. And then silence. Heavy, full, impossible to mistake for casual. I tried to distract myself with the wires, checking connections that didn't need checking. My hands shook slightly, and I prayed she didn't notice. But she was watching me. I could feel her eyes, the weight of them. The truth is, I've always noticed her in ways I shouldn't. The way she adjusts her glasses before she reads something important. The way her laugh, rare, too rare, sounds like it surprises even her. And now, standing this close, I noticed something else, the faint scent of her perfume, subtle, warm, like vanilla buried under smoke. It made the air too thick. Then the phone on her desk rang, slicing through the silence. We both flinched, like we'd been caught. She snatched it up on the second ring. Yes? Her voice shifted instantly into her professional register, cool, steady, untouchable. I should have left right then. While she talked, I packed my tools faster than necessary, trying to anchor myself in movement. But I couldn't help listening. Her tone was clipped, a little too sharp. Whoever was on the other end was pressing her, maybe arguing. I heard her say, "That isn't my problem anymore," before she slammed the phone back down. The room held its breath. When she looked at me again, the mask slipped. Her eyes were darker, not angry, but tired. Exposed. "Sorry," she said. "You don't have to apologize." She tilted her head, almost skeptical. "That's what people say when they don't understand." The way she said it, quiet, resigned, hit deeper than I expected. It made me want to close the space between us, tell her I did understand, even if I couldn't explain how. My chest ached with words I wasn't supposed to say. Instead, I whispered, "Maybe I don't want to leave you like this." Her breath caught, soft but audible. She looked at me, really looked, and for the first time I didn't see the boss, or the neighbor, or the woman who kept everyone at arm's length. I saw someone breaking under the weight of being strong for too long. Her hand twitched on the desk, like she was about to reach for me again. And I stepped forward before I could stop myself. The distance between us was almost gone. Too close. Not close enough. We both froze there, suspended. And then, a sharp knock on the door. She jerked back, her eyes wide. My pulse thundered in my ears. Neither of us moved. The knock echoed once, twice, then silence. Whoever it was must have walked away. But the damage was done. Her hand slipped from the desk, and I took a step back like I'd been burned. Evelyn drew in a slow breath, eyes fixed on the door as though it might open again. When it didn't, she turned to me. Her face was composed, but not her eyes. They betrayed something raw, unsettled. "You should probably go," she said softly. My chest tightened. "Do you want me to?" Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked down at her hands, fingers curling into the edge of the desk. The silence stretched, unbearable, until she finally whispered, "No. That's the problem." The words hit like a current. She hadn't meant to say them. I could hear it in the way her voice cracked halfway through. My throat went dry. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Instead, I watched her, memorizing every detail, the faint tremble in her shoulders, the way she couldn't quite meet my eyes, the sudden vulnerability I wasn't supposed to see. "Evelyn," I said, and her name felt heavy in my mouth. She looked up then, sharply, as if hearing her name from me shifted something. Her gaze locked on mine, unflinching, like she was daring me to break the silence first. "You make this difficult," she whispered. "I don't mean to." Her laugh was short, humorless. "That doesn't make it easier." I stepped closer, every nerve screaming at me to stop, but I couldn't. "Then tell me to leave, and I'll go." Her eyes flicked to my mouth before she shook her head slowly. "Don't ask me for things I can't give." The air thickened between us, pulling tighter, like we were already crossing the line even without touching. My pulse was loud in my ears. "You think I don't notice?" she asked suddenly. Her tone was sharp, but it wavered beneath. "The way you look at me. The way you linger." I froze. She had noticed. Every glance, every pause I thought I'd hidden. My instinct was to deny it, but instead the truth slipped out. "I can't help it." Her eyes softened, just barely. Her lips parted, but no words came. We stood there, breathing the same charged air, both of us caught in the gravity of a moment we shouldn't be in. I wanted to reach out, to close the small gap and feel her skin against mine. I wanted to know if the electricity was real or just in my head. But I didn't move. And neither did she. The silence became unbearable, so thick it felt like it could shatter. Finally, she whispered, almost inaudible, "What happens if we don't stop?" Her question still hung in the air. What happens if we don't stop? When I opened my mouth, ready to say something reckless. But before I could, she stepped back, almost stumbling into her chair. Her hands shook as she pressed them flat against the desk. "I shouldn't have said that," she murmured, half to herself, half to me. I wanted to close the space again, to tell her I didn't want her to take it back. But then she said something that froze me. "You remind me of someone." I blinked. "What do you mean?" Her eyes darted to the window, as if searching for a way out. "Years ago, I knew someone. Younger. Too young. I thought I'd buried that part of myself, but—" She trailed off, swallowing hard. "Then you showed up. With the same stubborn eyes, the same way of standing there like you see through me." The words knocked the air out of me. This wasn't just about me, this was about a shadow from her past. "Was it someone you loved?" I asked quietly. Her silence was answer enough. Her fingers gripped the edge of the desk until her knuckles went white. I didn't know what to say. The room felt like it was tilting, the weight of her history pressing between us. Part of me wanted to pull away, to let her keep her ghosts. Another part wanted to step closer, to prove I wasn't just a reflection of someone else. Before I could decide, the office door creaked. My neighbor, her employee, poked his head in. "Evelyn? Do-you-oh?" His eyes flicked from her to me, and his brow furrowed. Every muscle in my body locked. He must have seen the closeness, the charged silence we hadn't hidden fast enough. "I'll come back," he said carefully, his voice laced with something I couldn't read. Suspicion? Concern? Disgust? He shut the door before I could say a word. The air collapsed between us. Evelyn pressed her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with panic. "This can't happen," she whispered. I stepped forward, desperate, words tumbling out before I could stop them. "Then tell me I don't matter to you. Tell me it's nothing." Her eyes snapped to mine, fierce, raw. "Don't you dare make me say that." The force in her voice cut through me. For the first time, she wasn't holding back. Not the control, not the fear, not the longing. It was all there, written across her face, trembling in her body. I should have backed down. I should have let the door close on the moment. Instead, I felt the ground shift beneath us. Because in that one instant I knew this wasn't about fixing her light fixtures, or being early, or filling space in her office. It was about something neither of us had meant to find. And it was too late to unfind it. The door had barely clicked shut before Evelyn pressed her palms over her eyes. She stood there, breathing too fast, like she was bracing for something heavy to fall on her. "I shouldn't have let it get this far," she said, her voice thin. I swallowed, heart hammering. "It's not just you." Her hands dropped, and she looked at me. Her eyes were sharp, but behind them was fear, the kind you can't disguise. "Do you have any idea what this could do? To me? To you? I know it's wrong," I admitted. "But I can't stop." She laughed once, bitter. "That's the most dangerous thing you've said yet." We stood across from each other like we were on opposite cliffs, the space between us a drop neither of us could survive. I felt the truth clawing its way out of me, and I let it. "I think about you all the time." The words came ragged, unpolished. "Even when I try not to. You walk into a room and my voice broke. "I notice everything. Every detail. I can't help it." Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. "You wanted me to say it." I pushed on, because I couldn't stop now. "That's why you didn't tell me to leave. That's why you touched me. Because you feel it too." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Evelyn whispered, almost broken, "God help me, yes." The admission shattered something in both of us. She pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, as though she could take it back, but it was too late. I crossed the space between us before I had time to second-guess. Not to touch her, not yet, but close enough that I felt her warmth, her breath uneven against mine. "We can't undo this," she said, her voice shaking. "Maybe we're not supposed to." Her eyes searched mine, desperate, torn. "You're too young." I don't care." My voice cracked, raw. "Do you?" Her answer was silence, but not empty silence, loaded, trembling, alive. She lifted her hand, hesitated, then finally let her fingers brush against my face. The touch was tentative, almost fearful, but it undid me completely. I leaned into it. Just that small contact, her skin against mine, felt like a confession more powerful than any words. "Evelyn," I whispered. She closed her eyes, a single tear sliding free before she could stop it. When she opened them again, something in her had shifted, not gone, not healed, but decided. "We'll regret this," she breathed. "Maybe," I said. "But not tonight." And for the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't step back. She just stood there, her hand on my face, staring at me like she was finally done running. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was an answer. I always thought endings were supposed to be clear: one door closes, another opens. But standing in that office with Evelyn's hand against my cheek, I realized some endings don't end at all. They just change shape. She didn't move away. I didn't either. For the first time, either of us tried to explain it or excuse it. We just let the weight of the truth hang between us. Later, when the office had emptied and the night pressed against the windows, we sat in the silence we'd created. The storm outside rattled against the glass, but inside it was calm, fragile, new, but real. "You know this isn't simple," Evelyn said finally, her voice soft, as if she was speaking more to herself than to me. "I don't need simple," I answered. "I just need real." She studied me then, the kind of long, searching look that felt like it reached deeper than skin. For weeks, months even, she'd kept herself locked up tight, guarded by regret and rules. But now I saw something else, something open, vulnerable. "You're going to regret me," she whispered. I shook my head. "Maybe. But I'd regret never trying more." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Instead, she leaned closer, resting her forehead lightly against mine. The gesture was small, but it carried more weight than any kiss could have. It was her way of saying she was choosing this, choosing me, even if the world told her not to. That night wasn't about fireworks or reckless passion. It was about something quieter, something harder, two people finally allowing themselves to be seen. The next morning, everything looked different. The office was still the same, papers stacked, phones ringing, coffee gone cold. But Evelyn moved through it differently, lighter, not free exactly, but less burdened. She didn't call it love. I didn't either. Not yet. What we had wasn't polished enough for that word. But it was something. And for now, that was enough. Looking back, I know the risk never went away. People might talk. Lines might blur. Regret might creep in again. But what mattered more was the truth we found in each other, that sometimes the thing you're most afraid of is the one thing you can't keep running from. Maybe love isn't about timing or rules. Maybe it's about finally stopping long enough to let someone see you, and daring to see them back. For Evelyn and me, that was where it began. Not with certainty. Not with perfection. But with a choice. And sometimes, that's all love really is. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Speech Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?